What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing The Jungle Book, directed by Jon Favreau and starring Scarlett Johansson, Bill Murray, Christopher Walken, Idris Elba, and Ben Kingsley, as well as this young rising star, Neil Sethi. Now, obviously, this is a new reimagining of the classic Jungle Book, the animated film. Also, there's been other live-action films back in 1942. That was the one I grew up watching. Not in 1942, obviously, but that's the one I remember watching when I was younger. And even the 1994 Jungle Book. And there's been a bunch of other movies, I think like TV versions of the film as well. And let's start off with some of the things that I really enjoyed in this film. And that is the effects. The effects when I was going in, I was thinking, this is going to hurt this movie. Every time when people overuse CGI, you can tell. Like, that is what hurt The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. That movie suffered because of the CG. Clearly, the movie that came out earlier this year, Gods of Egypt, that's another thing that hurt that movie. CGI. So, going into this, when I heard that everything was CGI, everything, the background, the animals, everything. The only thing that's not CGI is the young kid playing Mowgli, Neil Sethi. So I think visually, this got to be like one of the best visual effects I have seen in a movie in a long while. Considering the fact that everything takes place behind a green screen, it sells it. And I think that's great, because that's one of the biggest concerns that I had for going into the movie. In terms of the animals itself, how is it going to transfer the beloved animated characters into a live action film? I think it did really well. Idris Elba playing Shere Khan, I think, is great. He does a great job playing the character. You know, a true, dark, vicious guy that you really do end up hating. You want to sell that viciousness of that character, and he was on point with that. Bill Murray as Baloo, yeah. Totally on board with that. I think there's a couple of actors that come to mind when you're thinking Baloo. Bill Murray's definitely one of them, and I think he did a really good job in this film. He was funny. He was definitely the comic relief of the movie. Ben Kingsley as Bagheera is also a great pick. Ben Kingsley just has a great voice. Scarlett Johansson as Kaa, wasn't really a huge fan of. Her voice, I didn't like it. I think that was a bad casting choice to cast Scarlett Johansson to play the snake. Just wasn't a fan. And in general, I just wasn't a huge fan of that scene. It just kind of felt a little out of place. Thrown in there to provide a little backstory to how Mowgli ended up in the woods. I thought that was convenient to throw that in there. Neil Sethi, I think he did a great job. This kid is like 12 years old, and for him to be shooting these scenes with these animals, I can imagine how hard it is for him to do it, especially a 12-year-old, especially considering if they're planning on making like more movies, this kid is going to be growing up. So there's always these problems of, well, this kid's growing up too fast, we might need to bring in a new kid, and this kid's voice might change in like the next year. So those are the red flags that are all over young actors, and some people don't want to go in that path. And then obviously directing these children, like in the movie The Witch, they had some really young kids, like 4 or 5 years old, and I don't know how the hell they did it, but those kids sold it so well that you actually thought that those kids that this movie was actually taking place during that time period, because those kids, like, holy hell. Because kids have a mind of their own. They don't have a great attention span, so it's really hard to direct and tell kids to do a certain thing and expect them to actually do it. For this kid to be in a movie like this and not entirely being aware of where to look, I think he does a good job. Then we got Christopher Walken as King Louie, the giant orangutan. I wasn't a huge fan of that, because as much as it's like Christopher Walken and he's playing a giant orangutan that doesn't want to get off his ass and move, I don't know. I just didn't like the character. I like Christopher Walken. I just don't think that this was a role that he should have taken. They could have had a bunch of other guys play this, do a voiceover for this. Well, let's say some of the things that kind of hurt this movie is the singing. There, you know, in the animated film, we have like a lot of singing going on there. This film tries to do the same thing. It tries to copy and paste some things from the original film, and it just doesn't work. They sing like twice, and it doesn't work. Particularly because they're out of tune, and the singing just isn't good in general. The animals talking, sure, whatever. I'm fine with that. Obviously, I mean, it's a Jungle Book. How else were you going to portray these characters? You're not going to have subtitles on the bottom, and I didn't have a problem with that. That might be the thing that stops people to go into this movie thinking, "Oh, well, animals are talking, and this is so childish." But it's Jungle Book. I think there's an exception with that. But the singing, that is something that hurt this movie. I did not enjoy it. I don't know. It just felt so awkward. Did not like it. It's like they were looking, where are we going to throw in a nice score where they're going to have singing? 1 minute they're having this conversation with this orangutan, then he starts singing, and then he's getting ready to kill Mowgli. This guy has like 3 different personalities. Did not work. Maybe that's why it hurt Christopher Walken's performance as the orangutan. Maybe that's why I didn't like it. It just didn't work. That whole entire scene just didn't like it. I wanted to like it. I thought it was intriguing that the orangutan is kind of, sort of blackmailing Mowgli and telling him to give him the red flower and he'll protect him. This guy is like, he's got to own everything. But that's the thing with these movies. They were trying to stay faithful to the original animated film, and some of the things that they did where they copy and pasted, it worked. Other things, it didn't work. Singing, like I said, hurts this movie. Some of the casting also hurts this movie. Scarlett Johansson and Christopher Walken, I know. I gotta say Christopher Walken, but I think that was a bad casting choice on their part. Just didn't belong in this movie. And, I mean, I think it's fun to say, whoa, Christopher Walken's playing an orangutan. Let's just get a hold of what we're actually getting here. And as much as we want to see maybe Christopher Walken as an orangutan, I don't think it fit this movie. There were a couple of slow moments that I really didn't care for. Once Baloo got introduced, I think things started picking up a little bit. It got a little bit more humorous, and the mood kind of lightened a little bit there. Every scene with Shere Khan, I think, was great. So, not a perfect movie, but there were certainly a lot of things to enjoy out of this film. I think this movie is a little bit more inclined to children. The animated film, I think anyone can enjoy. Disney needs to start taking a little bit more risks. They are very conservative, and I think everyone saw that with Star Wars. I loved Star Wars The Force Awakens, but it felt like such a conservative film, and Disney needs to be a little bit more bold and start taking risks, because I feel like Disney is like scared of criticism, and sometimes you just gotta go big or go home instead of copy and pasting, because that's what we're seeing. Star Wars, we're seeing that here. I know they're trying to stay faithful to the original series, but whenever you're trying to do a remake, reboot, or whatever, try to, be bold. Try to something new, because we don't want to see the same thing over again. It's bad enough we're getting all these sequels and reboots that we don't even want to see. I mean, seriously, who the hell wants to see a remake of Memento or even Ben-Hur? Why is that even being remade? So if we're going to see these tales retold, let's put a new twist on them. Add something that will grab our attention and not just the same thing, copying and pasting and doing some minor adjustments, because we've already seen this movie. And that's maybe why I still like the originals better, because there's nothing new. Is it a good movie? Yes, but there's nothing new. There was no risks taken, and there were some problems. So, in the 1994 version and even the 1942 version, we had poachers in the forest, and Mowgli had to outsmart them and work with the animals to dispose of them one by one. And this movie didn't go that path. Maybe this is going to be what Andy Serkis is going to do with his own movie, where we're going to have poachers come in and Mowgli's life is going to be in danger or something. Because here the main antagonist is Shere Khan. But overall, I think Jon Favreau did a really good job. He captured a lot of emotion and even some intensity in the film. It's a visual masterpiece, I think, in my opinion. And while I think this is the best Jungle Book we've gotten up to date, I think the ones that I've seen in my childhood still kind of like a little bit more, because, well, those are the ones I grew up with, and I still have nostalgia for those films. But I think the newer generation are definitely going to liken to this new Jungle Book, and this is going to be the one that they remember in years to come. So with that being said, I'm going to give the Jungle Book a B. There was already going to be a sequel. Jon Favreau is not going to be directing it. He is going to be a producer, so we'll see where they go. I mean, I don't know. This movie's going to be made in, what, another 2-3 years? By then, this kid is going to grow up, so I don't know, are they going to still use the same actor? Or are they going to get a new guy in here? We're going to have to wait. And then we're going to have to see what Andy Serkis does with his film, because I don't know. You know, one minute we're not producing any Jungle Book films, and then all of a sudden we got 2 Jungle Book films. It's like the movie Hercules. We didn't have any Hercules movies. Then all of a sudden 2014 hits and we got like 2 Hercules movies. Actually 3, there's a TV movie. Now it feels like we're getting the same thing with the Jungle Book. You know, we have Jungle Book, and then next year we have another Jungle Book movie, and then we have a sequel to Jungle Book. It's getting a bit much. And then we got Tarzan. You know, so we'll see where they go. But this kid is going to grow up way fast, so they better have a solution to what they're going to do, and they better do it fast. But anyways, guys, that is my review of The Jungle Book. What were your thoughts on this movie? Did you enjoy it? Do you think the originals are still better, or did you like this movie better? Do you think that this movie is going to become a classic like some of these other ones, or eventually down the road it's going to be forgotten? Just comment that down below, and as always, you can hit that big thumbs up down in the bottom, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time for more unboxings, reviews, and movie news.